Welcome to the show with no name for, what the heck day is this? February the 11th, 2014. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nicosia and Gavin Murdoch, and we are back on the air. This is going to be one of our unusual talk shows. I don't know if those of you who have been listening all morning. We have no telephones so far this morning, so won't be taking any calls. So you're just going to have to listen to us talk, I guess. And we're on at our new hour, and Rick had to cancel his show, but we're here. We're here, and I guess this is where we're going to be. Tuesdays at 11 a.m.
At 11. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, Louisa, if you've been waiting for an hour to hear me talk, now you can hear me. Well, what's been going on, guys?
A lot of things.
Oh, we have a new bishop, Edward Scharfenberger, from Monsignor from the Brooklyn diocese, is being named this morning as the bishop delegate. No, bishop. It's not bishop elect. Bishop designate. Bishop designate of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Albany.
Is he an old guy, a young guy?
65. His parents are both living.
Very young.
Very young, 65. Which means he only gets 10 years before he has to put in his mandatory retirement notice.
So is he like an interim then?
Well, I mean,
point?
I guess he comes highly recommended. He's a lawyer, among other things.
Oh, that's all right.
He's a canon lawyer, in addition to being a civil lawyer, and he's got his doctorate from the Pontifical something or other in Rome, and I learned about it because a guy I know was lecturing at a morning mass somewhere in the Diocese of Albany this morning, and this Monsignor was the celebrant, and afterwards introduces himself. In about 4 hours, I'm going to be announced as the Bishop of Albany. So his appointment came from Pope Francis, which is the anniversary of Pope Benedict announcing his retirement was a year ago today.
Oh.
So lots of interesting news there. Shirley Temple passed away early this morning.
85.
85 years old. 85 years old. Now, that would have made her born what year? 1929 or 28? Something like that. She was, I think, 3 years old when she began taking tap dance lessons, and I don't think she was more than 5 before she started making movies, something like that. And every mother in America wanted their daughter to be Shirley Temple after that. So my mother began taking tap dancing lessons at the age of 5, which was just about that same time.
How about you? Did you take them?
My mother was our den leader in Cub Scouts, and she taught us all the waltz clog that we did to. It's a good thing I was going to say it's a good thing this isn't video, but we are videoing it. But I'm not going to do the dance. But east side, west side, all around the town. And the Cub Scouts all did that for the den meeting. It's amazing we all turned out okay.
Whose opinion is that?
Mine alone. Meanwhile, her hometown of Franklin, Massachusetts, has been designated the safest municipality in America. Lowest crime rate in America, Franklin, Massachusetts.
That's a pretty good.
Yesterday was our fellow broadcaster Glenn Beck's 50th birthday. Today is, there's the new bishop. He's just being announced now. He's being introduced even as we speak.
Father Hubbard is giving him
Bishop
his
Hubbard is handing him his Mets hat?
Yeah.
What is that?
Mets hat and his bishop's hat.
Oh, and the bishop's hat. But this is happening live. I wish we could bring it to you, but it's on the other channel.
He doesn't know which one he wants to wear.
Okay. I was going to say somebody let the boss in, but somebody's there with a key. Okay. So that's anyway. That's exciting news. Today is former Governor Sarah Palin's 50th birthday. Happy birthday to you, Sarah. Who else's birthday? Oh, Megan Medwood, my cousin Megan Medwood, is celebrating her birthday today. Lovely young lady, nice family, including all her extended relatives. So you've been watching the Olympics? Or?
Yes, we have. Yeah, they're. It's interesting. They've been getting a lot of criticism about the Olympics because the facilities are not necessarily up to what we are.
The facility for the reporters.
Well, yesterday they had to do with the half pipe run, and they've had some issues with that, and they wanted to delay it a couple of days, but apparently they didn't, because I saw this morning that there were some results from that. They've had to bring in snow for some of the runs because it's 50
like 40,
degrees.
45, 50 degrees,
Yeah.
I was watching one of the downhill events yesterday, and it looked like it was just a sheet of ice from top to bottom.
And that's because they put chemicals on it to put ice on it so it wouldn't melt.
That was terrifying. And I got to say, the hot dog events, which they're doing a lot of up front here, are more exciting to watch than the traditional alpine events, I think.
Because there is more excitement to them.
These flips in the air, and they're going to break their neck.
Oh, absolutely. And then what they say about the winners and losers is interesting. Bode Miller got hammered yesterday because he came in 8th place. Well, he came in 8th place by a half a second, snap of a finger, and that's terrible. It's terrible. He was supposed to have won. That's half a second.
That's a tick of a tick-tock. Yeah.
It is, and somebody got beat by 1,000th of a second, which isn't even a tick.
Yeah, right.
These events are so competitive, and these athletes are such.
Well, guess what? Somebody's got to win, and everybody else has got to lose. That's the way it works.
There's only one winner, one goal. But they've been interesting. The Russian, the 14-year-old Russian girl won the figure skating.
She was absolutely magnificent. And look like ice water in her veins. I mean, it's like nothing bothered her whatsoever. She was absolutely terrific.
Second
terrific.
nature to her.
Yep, she's too young to have nerves.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting. Watching them. The biathlons are
biathlon.
great.
I think is the most exciting event there is. They drop dead when they go get across the finish line, which is just the way it should be.
Heart's going 200 beats a minute, then they lay down the chute, and they have to drop it down to nothing.
And then you miss one, and you got to do that extra 150 meters or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just go around in the circle and get back on the track. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's
and really, when you get right down to it, the ones who are able to get all 10 shots are the ones that are going to be the medal winners, because somebody is always missing.
Yep.
So practice your shooting and an average skiing. That's the way I look at it.
But it's a change of pace to watch these compared to the other things.
And the ice bocce started last night. The women's ice bocce.
The curling.
Curling.
Yeah. Throwing the stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There was some. I just find that sport fascinating to watch. It's how are they going to get this stone? Well, you brush this way, you brush that way, you go right around this stone and hit the other one. How is that possible? But it is.
It must be something to do with physics.
It has to do with physics, but it's amazing that it can do that. And
radio controlled.
And the Scots invented that, right?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yes, it is. So it's been
your people.
My Mayans. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very exciting. And let's see what else.
We got the speed skating was on last night.
I thought the opening event was spectacular. It was elegant. The Swan Lake blew me away.
That was a beautiful opening.
Man. And of course the reporters are all complaining about this, and they're complaining, the ring didn't open. Well, big deal. They just put together, the little girl flying through the air and all this stuff. Come on, it was beautiful, okay. So they didn't have a section in there about Stalin's gulags. Well, you know what? You celebrate what's good about your country, not what's bad.
That's right.
And they were showing a pride in their culture that predates the communists and postdates the communists.
I thought it was great. I thought the opening was great.
So good for them. And you know what else I've noted? You were in Russia before in the bad days, right?
Bad days.
Toward the end of the bad days,
Yeah.
anyway. There are different people now. They look like they're enjoying themselves.
You know, when
It's not I must win this race or I will be shot or my family goes to the gulag. It was they look like American kids having a great time doing what they're doing and rooting for each other.
when we were there, and I told this to people when we came back, the people on the street, you could see the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Yes.
And it was only when they got behind closed doors in their apartments did they have a chance to relax. You know, a lot of that has changed because of the system there, and they don't look like everything is bearing down on them. You know, it's funny when I was there teaching, and we'd ride home on the trolley bus. You know, they've got 75 people on a trolley bus meant for 20, and everybody had that stone face.
Oh, you mean
on.
like the Henrietta Glenn?
Yeah, Henrietta Glenn. Yeah, yeah. But everybody had the stone face on.
Yeah.
You had your trolley bus face on.
Yeah.
But you know, when we were there the last time in 2006, you could see there was a more relaxed atmosphere. It's still tough. You know, no doubt about it. It's still tough to be living there, but that one little piece has been removed that changes their perception and their feel.
The permanent oppression is what it is.
Yeah, there is what they call sunshine future coming up for them at some point. You know, things will be better.
Their native population grew last year for the first time in decades. It's been shrinking. Their total population due to immigration fluctuates, but the native population increased for the first time. In other words, the birth rate exceeded the death rate for the first time in like 25 years, if not more. Yeah.
But there's a lot of more great events coming on next couple days. You know, they've got some more of the ski jumping. They've got some more racing coming on, and those guys on those short tracks racing on ice skates.
Oh my God.
You know, they're going. I don't know
it's insane.
Incredible. The guys coming down the mountain skiing yesterday were going 78 miles an hour in parts. You know, can you imagine that? You know, you in the ground at 78 miles an hour.
Well, then they were showing the ski jumps and how high off the ground these people were, and they superimposed Big Ben on the screen, and they're higher than Big Ben, and of course they travel farther than a football field.
Yeah.
It's
a whole lot of time with air underneath you, and nothing else.
And nothing else. 226 feet in the air, from the end of the jump to the bottom of the hill.
That is scary for us uninitiated.
Now, am I mistaken, or the ski jumps have tracks on them now that I don't think they used to have? Didn't they used to just go, it was a wide open track all the way to the bottom? Hence the agony of defeat?
Yeah. I don't know. I remember watching, but I can't say there was or wasn't. I mean, that track kind of gets worn in there where they're all coming down.
This is not worn. This is built. This is built in. These are built in like the gutters in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
So that there's actually the two skis are in separate tracks until you reach the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's no track.
In the old days, they were worn in.
But now they're created that way.
Now they're created.
The agony of defeat.
Remember Eddie the Eagle?
Absolutely. Eddie the Eagle.
The British ski jumper who had never jumped until he went to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know.
And he'd wait till he got to the end and then go hop.
Hop off. Yeah. You know, and it was amazing. You know, during the opening ceremony.
Well, I mean, how many alpine ski areas are there in Great Britain? None, right?
I don't think so. You have to probably go to Scotland to find one. But they were introducing the different nations. In some nations, you know, they've got one athlete or two athletes. You know, Jamaica's only got two because they've only got a two-man bobsled team this time.
Yeah,
they
what
don't
happened?
have the four-man.
Two of the guys drop out? Are these the same guys?
No, they're different guys.
Oh, they're different guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely different guys from the movie too.
Well, yeah, and then and of course John Candy
Candy
can't be there, of course.
no.
Yeah.
But it's great that some of these guys get a chance to.
That was a long
get out
time
there.
ago. That was I was still coaching baseball at the time when that movie came. Yeah, 90 something.
Yeah. But you would think maybe the next time they award the Winter Olympic Games, they're going to award them to a place that's really going to have snow the whole time, not these things. I mean,
Yeah.
in Vancouver, Canada, the last time, it was a real issue up there.
That's a very warm climate up there. That's where Jamie is now,
Yeah,
and his ambient temperature is almost always substantially higher than it is here, even though they're much farther north.
And Sochi is the same kind of place, so
yeah.
maybe
That's
next time they'll have it someplace cold.
Well, you would think,
You'd hope.
like
No.
Placid, maybe. That'd be cool. I don't know. I guess the next one is already set wherever it is.
I don't know where. Cairo or someplace.
Yeah, there are places like the French, Swiss, and Italian Alps that are all good places to have these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So leave it at that. And I really think the Olympics should be permanently in at Mount Olympus is where it ought to be.
Yeah, have it in
I've been reading, as I've mentioned a couple of times, Josephus, the Jewish historian, who was writing, between 70 and 100 A.D., his history of the wars against the Romans and his history of the Jewish people. The Antiquities of the Jews is what it's called. And, once you get into his modern era, everything is dated in terms of the Olympiad, which this is the 103rd Olympiad, and that's the way the whole world
functioned.
recognized historical dates. It was the first year of the 117th Olympiad. That went on for what 600-700 years, I think, before.
Quite a while,
Yeah.
It shows you the power and staying power of Greece.
Yeah.
We tend to forget that that's where a lot of our stuff comes from. That we have thought, philosophy, mathematics.
I am so impressed with him as a writer. I was shocked at how good his history is.
He went to Catholic school and he had the nuns.
He did.
That's where he got it from.
He actually learned Greek so that he could write these books, because Greek was
the common language.
The common language. He didn't write it in Latin.
No,
it was the Roman Empire, but if you're educated, you wrote in Greek.
Right.
So that's what they did.
Then eventually, when you were educated, you wrote in Latin.
Well,
because of all the monks.
Latin, there are only 5 declensions. You following all this, Jim?
I'm following. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Sunday was the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Did you watch that live?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yeah.
There aren't many people who didn't, because that was one of the stations you could get.
Well, that's true, but
3.
it was opposite Bonanza.
Well,
I think. I'm pretty sure.
I've got an 8mm tape, a movie, not a tape, an 8mm movie of the Beatles coming off the airplane in New York,
Wow.
and some of the girls and people in the audience, how they were reacting when they
They
came
were.
out. Yeah.
And they're still reacting the same way. It's like nobody watched the Olympics Sunday night while this was. We were on the road, so I didn't even realize the Beatles show was on TV. So I just heard about it the next day. But on Facebook. By the way, the new bishop has friended me on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're watching the TV monitor. He's giving and he IM'd me. I sent him a message, and he immediately came back. He wants me to pray for him, which I think is a good idea. We should.
yes.
But he's bishop designate, not bishop elect.
Right.
All the news reports are saying he's bishop elect.
No, April 10th.
And all I can say is I hope he is one of the elect. Anyway, back to the Beatles. So the next morning on Facebook, all these women now in their 60s were
Reminiscing.
We're reminiscing, and the Beatles, they were so wonderful. They brought so much culture. They brought so much excitement. They were musical geniuses, and they spoke right to our hearts. And So I thought this morning, in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Beatles coming to New York and appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show, I'd revive one of our old features, which we called Kaiser's Corner, where we
As opposed to Kiner's Corner, which
that's right.
is no longer with us because he
But
passed.
Ralph Kiner passed away too. May he rest in peace. A tremendous slugger and a great broadcaster.
Correct.
Anyway, we used to read poems occasionally of different sorts, and Bob Kaiser is actually he doesn't like it when we do that, so I've called it Kaiser's Corner ever since. So we haven't done it in a long time. But when we were talking the other day about Dorothy Parker, it occurred to me that I should bring Dorothy Parker in. I don't have Dorothy Parker, but I did manage. I did manage to print out last night a couple of the great poetic works of the 1960s, and I believe both of these were featured on that Ed Sullivan Show by the Beatles. So this is to demonstrate to you the sheer genius of Lennon and McCartney.
I think that was
And I'll try to
cheek.
I'll try to do this as
Straight.
She loves you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She loves you. Yeah. She loves you. Yeah. I mean, I can understand why these girls are excited about this. You think you lost your love. When I saw her yesterday, it's you she's thinking of, and she told me what to say. She says she loves you. And you know that can't be bad. Yes, she loves you. And you know you should be glad. She said you hurt her so she almost lost her mind, and now she says she knows you're not the hurting kind. She says she loves you. And you know that can't be bad. Yes, she loves you, and you know you should be glad. Oh, she loves you. Yeah. She loves you. Yeah. And with a love like that, you know you should be glad. You know, it's up to you. I think it's only fair. Pride can hurt you too. Apologize to her because she loves you. And you know that can't be bad. She loves you, and you know you should be glad. Oh. She loves you, yeah. She loves you, yeah. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. Yeah.
Isn't that profound?
God, that was...
Wow.
Oh, no wonder they were calling them the new Shakespeare. Yeah? The morning after, the Monday morning, I happened to be in, it might have been after school, I'm not sure, but it was my mother's classroom. My mother taught ninth grade English, and her homeroom was in the basement of the old St. Mary's Institute. And I remember a ninth grader, his name was Joe Morendo, and he came up to my mother, and he's trying to explain to her the impact that this moment had on America and on culture and how it was changing our entire future. And he combed his hair down over his forehead to show Mrs. Going exactly what it was that was enrapturing the youth of America. And my mother didn't quite get it. I mean, she made some comment about Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, the Beatles, and Boogie Woogie. And upstairs in seventh grade, Sister Monica Agnes said to us, boys and girls, I'll never forget this. Sister Monica Agnes taught us three things. She was an English teacher. She said, always use different from, not different than. And a lot is something you can dig with a shovel, otherwise don't use it in your formal writing. And the third thing she taught us, and it was on this day, the Monday after the Beatles' appearance, she said, boys and girls, I have a great deal of respect for Elvis Presley because he has staying power. I guarantee you, boys and girls, that a year from now, no one will know who the Beatles even were.
Hey, everybody makes mistakes sometime in their life.
Well, I think, Joe Morendo became Joe the Prophet, or Joe the Pro, they call him for short. Joe the Prophet.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even great poets start out slowly.
Yes.
They have to build to a crescendo, and this is was a beginning for them. They were just starting out. They're looking for something catchy. I don't think they're looking to be profound at that time. That came later on with the feeling of self-importance.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. Yes. But that was later. That was later.
Yes.
I think they did this one on that show. Oh yeah, this must be left over from the last time. I'll tell you something I think you'll understand. When I'll say that something, I want to hold your hand. That's wanna, W-A-N-N-A. That's the way the lyric reads. I assume it means want to. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Sounds like Bart Simpson. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Oh, please say to me you'll let me be your man, and please say to me you'll let me hold your hand. It's not more like Dr. Seuss now that I think about it. Oh, let me hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. And when I touch you, I feel happy inside. It's such a feeling that my love I can't hide. I can't hide. I can't hide. Yeah, you've got that something. I think you'll understand. When I'll say that something, I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. And when I touch you, I feel happy inside. It's such a feeling that my love I can't hide. I can't hide. I can't hide. You've got that something. I think you'll understand. When I feel that something, I want to hold your hand. 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 That drove the whole world into...
They went nuts.
They went nuts.
They went nuts.
I think a lot of that had more to do with the tune of the
it
poetry
was
as opposed to the words themselves.
It was the music.
Because you listen to that Elvin show, I don't think anybody heard the words.
No.
All they heard was the rhythm.
You didn't even hear that. All you heard was the screaming girls.
But you heard some of the music. You never heard the words.
It's interesting when they were talking about this the other day that they did 2 live rehearsals prior to that evening, and they had a different audience for each of those.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yep. And there was only 735 seats available, and
in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
And the Ed Sullivan Theater to see it, and it was. They're talking to some of the women, the 61, 62-year-old women that are who were there, were talking about what it's like to be at the rehearsal, and then he talked about the things that went wrong at the rehearsal and how the one mic was dead, and George got all upset about it.
I wonder if their phones were working.
They couldn't hear the prompts. The headphones weren't working because they weren't quality headphones, so they didn't know what was going on. They had to look at each other and see what their reactions were.
Yeah.
It was a little bit interesting show. I wasn't particularly enamored of the music performers. We'll put it that way.
The ones who sang the Beatles songs?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty tough when you get a cowboy singing a Beatles song.
Well, the Beatles sang Meredith Willson's "Till There Was You." This is funny. "Till There Was You," of course, was from the Music Man, and Meredith Willson's biggest hit show. It's considered a classic of the musical theater, made into a tremendous movie with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones. And to this day, the Meredith Willson's estate, his children or grandchildren, whoever is collecting these days, receive their royalties on an annual basis from all his works. And notwithstanding that there have been hundreds, probably thousands of productions of The Music Man over the years for which they get royalties on every single one, they've gotten more money from the
Beatles
Beatles
cover?
side of the Beatles cover of Till There Was You than they got in all the productions of The Music Man, including the movie.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's an incredible thing. If they'd only done one of my songs, we wouldn't be doing this today.
We wouldn't have to be doing
Anyway,
it today.
please don't call. The phones still aren't working yet. We'll let you know if they should suddenly start working, or the production engineers are
Working feverishly.
to get this corrected. And did I mention this is WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York? This is the show with no name on it. Our new hour from 11 to 12. You're not
On Tuesdays.
yeah on Tuesdays. So let's see what's happened since the last time we were on the air. Oh, we had that. We talked about it on the podcast, but a lot of people don't get the podcast. The
Golf course controversy.
the continuing
saga.
saga.
right.
Saga.
Yeah.
It's on. and
So I
on.
see the mayor's choice for Pro has withdrawn his nomination,
Correct.
which.
Understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it hardly amounts to. I mean, he's got to get on with his life, and it hardly amounts to anything since the Common Council has already appointed somebody else.
I never saw in the paper. I may have missed it. What was his bid to run the course? I mean, did he say that he wanted X number of dollars?
I think
Did
so, but I forget what it was.
There was a figure in there.
50 or 60, I think,
Yeah,
something like
55,
55 grand a year.
Yeah.
And that was just to run the course. No.
Right. The golf cart money would be, if any, would be going to the city.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the things that our present pro has that belongs to him and uses that goes to him would now be turned to the city. And, and a lot of that, at 55, and then the money going to the city certainly depends on how many people come. If you're guaranteeing an amount to the city, it certainly depends upon the usage up there.
Interestingly, the concessionaire at the golf course posted, I think yesterday, a series of suggestions on how to improve the course that was quite remarkable, because it was they were all sensible suggestions, all things that could be implemented without costing a dime, and all made perfect sense. And this is somebody who's running the restaurant.
She did that. She did the same thing a couple of years ago, making suggestions on improving things there.
And she pointed out how by reducing the fee, the annual membership fee, you could increase the membership, because the opposite happened when they increased the fee.
Right,
Exactly.
And she said, and of course this is basic Adam Smith economics. Yeah. But the mayor doesn't see it that way. She and her previous council had raised the fees so that the city could then take $50,000 a year out of the golf course and use it for the general fund. So it was all done on paper. Well, all we have to do is raise the fees, and we'll raise $50,000, and it'll go to us. Well, they raise the fees, and the membership drops, and then she starts pointing fingers at everybody else, pointing fingers at the concessionaire and the pro, neither of whom have any control over what fees are charged, how many people use the course, or anything. So, well, we're being cheated. Well, look, they had exactly one bid for the concession, right?
Yeah.
And still she won't go for that.
And the pro, all he did was run the pro shop, give lessons, and tee times,
and control of the tee times.
It was a commission who was supposed to promote the course,
all of whom were appointed by her.
Right.
But it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody says the golf course isn't being watered enough. I don't know anything about that. All I do know is there's a sprinkler system that costs about $300,000 that's installed in the golf course. And if you want to water the golf course, I think you turn a valve.
It's computer operated.
whatever.
It's automatic.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's- yeah.
That senses the
Well, I don't know
moisture in the soil, probably.
I'm sure somehow that's done
yeah.
because you can be out there playing golf and all of a sudden
Get wet.
You got,
Oh no, maybe it's set so that whenever you're on the course.
well, that could be.
You could be the trigger.
That's I got to go play more often.
There you go.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what the problem is. Geez, Gavin, you brought a bunch of papers today. Anything interesting?
Not that I noticed very much. There's some talk about the core curriculum that Commissioner King has been discussing throughout the state, and most of it is it's the obvious part that the concept of a core curriculum isn't bad. It was the implementation and the rollout of the core is what has caused all the agita among teachers, students, and parents. Until you know how it's going to look, you need to take your time to bring it out. And the fact that it impacted all grades all at the same time is kind of counterintuitive, since a lot of this is foundation material that if you've missed that foundation, you're not going to do very well with the new stuff. So instead of doing it as sequential, which everybody wants to change today and improve today, well, some things take a while to improve. And if they would implement it grade by grade and instruct the teachers and provide them opportunities to learn what they're supposed to be teaching and how they're supposed to be teaching it and how the students are supposed to respond back and indicate that they've learned it over time, they would have had much better results. And my guess is about the time we get this figured out, they're going to come up with something else new that we're going to have to go back and do, just like it was with No Child Left Behind.
Gavin, isn't it true that every state has some sort of standards, right?
Yeah, they do.
Each state has a common core of one sort or another. We certainly do in New York. Right. We have the region's curriculum. And
right. But this is going to be a national standard, which is...
So we'll bring some down and some up.
And that's what they did the last time when they had the No Child Left Behind. They brought everything down because everybody had to achieve this level. And, of course, if you want everybody to achieve it, you have to go down to the lowest common denominator.
Wow.
That's the thing that... If they're really concerned about how well we do and how we stack up against other nations, a thought that I had was find out what the best country does and replicate it. All right? Who is number one in all these tests? Well, why don't we just steal their model and use it instead of trying to reinvent the wheel that's already been invented? Of course, I think part of the problem is it's Singapore and...
But haven't we been doing this like from state to state? And so, I mean, it's...
Yeah, they've been bouncing around different ideas from state to state, but there's never enough staying power with anything to see it through.
And there's never enough agreement on what's good and what's not good.
Well, it's no different than baseball.
I see one of the math textbooks for the Common Core curriculum includes questions like about how Bush really didn't win the election in 2000, Gore did, and things like
No.
Yes, this is what they're doing. Yeah.
It must be a California-based textbook.
Could be.
No.
All
Anyhow.
right.
They're putting off the final testing of this Common Core until 2017.
I didn't see that, though. I'm sure they push it down, but they're testing every year anyhow. So what that final testing is going to be,
and what it will
I don't
mean,
know.
who cares?
The worst thing is you've got a large number of students in the state and in the country are getting caught in a switch, and they're missing out on some very fundamental things that they need to have to be successful. And I think that's the big
because they're
thing.
switching everything at once.
Right.
Some people never had it.
That's right. You're switching to something through something that you've never had, and it's that great quantum leap from one side of the Grand Canyon to the other, and some people aren't going to make it. So I think it's the concept having United States students become better educated is wonderful and noble. They just need to take their time to work at it to get them there without losing so much as we go through, and that's what we're doing. We're losing kids. You're losing knowledge. You're turning kids off to what you're trying to do. You know, fundamentally, I guess, and this is heresy.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. If education is the prime function of the school district, then education is what they should have in there, and everything else be auxiliary someplace else.
Yeah.
You know, in the Soviet Union, okay, prior to, during, and now, all these extracurricular things do not exist in the school. Education is. From first grade to 12th grade, education. All you do in school is study topics. You don't have a basketball team. You don't have a student government. You don't have the run around and feel good happy club in there. You don't. School is for one thing and one thing only, and that's to educate. Everything else is done someplace else. And the teachers are required to teach the material.
That must have been a rude awakening for you when you went over to teach there.
Yeah, it was. It was really
Would you
interesting.
teach 8 periods a day or 10? Or?
Well, depends on what day it was. The schools there have more of a college flow to it. Kids don't take every class every day. But they take a whole lot more classes. Most of the kids took 14 different courses a year. You took algebra, geometry, trig, calculus at the same time throughout the course of your week-long schedule. You took biochemistry, physics, and earth science. Okay, and you did that for 4 years. So not only did you have breadth, you had depth of material because you spent longer going through it.
That's interesting.
And like the only things I thought were auxiliary that the school offered was nursing for students and military preparedness for the boys. Okay,
well,
ROTC and like that. I mean, that was everything else was, content curriculum that you needed to have. So for 4 years you would take physics, and at the end of that time you would take your final physics exam. At the end of the 4 years, you'd have studied chemistry for 4 years, and you would take your final chemistry exam at the end of 4 years. So, but that's how their day was. But every day they didn't start at the same time. Sometimes students wouldn't come in at 10 o'clock, and they'd go to 4. When I taught, they were just kind of massaging the schedule where kids went to school 5 days, though most of them still were going 6 days, but teachers only taught 5 days. Tuesday was my day off. I had Sunday and Tuesday off.
Wow.
But the other days I taught. But every day I taught, I did not start at 8 o'clock. Some days I started at 9:30. Some days I started at 7:30. Some days I started at 11, and like that. So it was a kind of a complicated schedule, but it was a lot more like a college schedule than it is a traditional high school schedule.
What were you teaching?
I taught American Lit. I taught British Lit. I taught American history. I taught European history, and I taught American grammar, which turned out they wanted to learn how to speak like Americans. Okay, and it was interesting because
Yeah.
They
Oh, that was British.
that was the British. The interesting thing is, just about every student I had, and most of the students I met throughout the community, all spoke English with a British accent.
Mm-hmm.
Because the original ones who were teaching English in Russia were Brits or British language tapes, so they all had that accent. And there were times in the classroom that, though we were both speaking English, I didn't know what they meant because they were using a British colloquial
Idiom,
when
yeah.
I was using an American one.
We had that same problem with we had the German exchange student who was very bright, and his English was quite good, but he had learned it from a British speaker,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result, some of the idioms were actually pretty hilarious. And one I'll tell you off the air later. It caused a great bit of confusion in our house at the time.
And it was interesting too, because you've got a Russian speaking with a British accent to an American, and there were things that were lost in the translation. Absolutely.
I was in Scotland with my wife in Edinburgh, and we went to the cathedral to Sunday Mass, and the priest is speaking in English but with a Scottish burr, And it was understandable, but at the same time, it was...
You had to listen.
No. There was something familiar about it that I couldn't quite put my finger on until I read his name in the bulletin. He was Polish, so he was speaking with a Polish inflection and a Scottish burr, the English language. So in a sense, it sounded like listening to my relatives or a lot of the people here, and yet it's got the burr.
Yeah. We a lot of time was spent in the classroom. The girls all wanted to have all the words of all the songs that were popular written down so they could understand the words, and the boys wanted to learn everything they could about American cars and how much they cost.
American what?
Cars.
Oh,
that was their big interest there. So it was unique. They.
What year were we talking about here?
94, 95.
Okay, so it's after the fall.
It was that was after the fall. Yeah, and we did a lot of things with American newspapers and magazines, reading them. They were real interested in it's the same things our kids here in America.
Were you teaching in Russian, or was it a full
full English? It was an English language school. The kids had started taking English in first grade, and
so total immersion.
Total immersion. But their other courses were taught in Russian. So they just like any school, though, the language of comprehension was different from student to student. Some were very good and some weren't. We had a couple of
But that's the best way to learn the language, is to just be forced to do it.
And which was my issue, because since everybody wanted to practice their English on me, I didn't have much chance or much desire to learn to speak Russian. I learned to point in Russian pretty well, which was really helpful. You point at something, you hold up 4 fingers, you want 4 of that. So it was, I
found it was the same in French when I went to Montreal.
Yeah, well, your hand motion's different in French. It's got that accent on there. Yeah.
Oh, that's Italian.
Yeah, but it was.
You got to watch the video to catch all this, folks.
It was. They learned a lot. I learned a lot more from them, and I think than they actually learned from me. One of the things that was interesting was this was the time when Whitney Houston's big song, "I Love You," came out, and the kids had been listening to it. And I said, this is a time of cassettes. There was no DVDs. I said, geez, I'd like to get a cassette of that because I'd like to be able to listen to it as well. And they said, sure, we'll take it down to the tape store and you can get a copy. So we go in and I go up to the counter, and Sergey goes up with me and he talks to me. He says, I want to get a tape of Whitney Houston. He said, all right. So he told me it was, I don't know what it was, 75 coupons, 75 rubles. And I pay, and I'm waiting. He says, no, you got to come back tomorrow to get it. They have to order it. I said, oh, okay, that's cool. They're going to have 1-day delivery. Well, I go back the next day, and they give me a regular cassette. There.
You just copied the other one.
They just copied the other one. All right? And that got me.
And I'll bet you Whitney Houston never saw a ruble out of that.
Absolutely. And that got me, really, it got me thinking, how many millions of dollars, when they talk about piracy, Russia was the focus of this piracy. I watched a program on national Russian TV. It was called Rockman, which was a Rocky movie that was he was a cliff climber.
What the heck was the name of that?
Well, anyhow, the translation was Rockman. But what was interesting was that it had been pirated by the Germans, so it was subtitled in German, voiced over in Russian. Yet you could still read the German subtitles. You could still hear the English guy speaking it with the Russian voice over. It didn't matter if you're a boy or girl. It was one voice. So when Stallone was kissing that girl, the voice coming out of her mouth was a guy because he was just repeating what she was saying. And on the bottom of the movie, they kept running the little trailer. If you are viewing this movie, please contact the FBI. This is one of those master tapes that somebody had pirated several places, and I got to watch it. So I had to listen, really close to hear what I was saying. Cliffhanger was the name of the movie, and I had never seen it, and that was the first time, and I had to really, filter out the Russian to hear the English that was going on underneath it.
Somewhere.
Did you contact the FBI?
I
forgot.
I didn't have a phone at my apartment.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have my phone, you know.
You know, I was down in New York when it was the first Harry Potter movie, I think, came out. And I was there opening day, and it was like the middle of the week. It was like a Wednesday, and the place was filled with school kids who should have been in school. Right, saw it on a big screen, you know, with a full stereophonic sound and everything. It was fabulous to watch. The next day, I'm down in Chinatown, and it's already on the street. And it's not only already on the street. It's in a nicely printed box with a big FBI warning on it. The next day, and I bought one, of course, for $5. And all it is somebody, you know, videoing
the theater like Kramer and
like
Seinfeld.
Kramer did in the Seinfeld show. That's exactly what it was. It was the next day, and there was a full half hour missing from it because it must be they only had 2-hour tapes, so they cut a half an hour out of it.
My son does security work for a couple of theaters, and that's what he has to do. He said make sure nobody goes in with.
Well, it must be almost impossible now.
Well, I guess if they see somebody with a cell phone
they have to go
or
up.
something,
Yeah.
they
Well, now they got these Google glasses that do all these things. They can actually record, and you don't even know it. You know, they record whatever you're looking at. And now they've got these Google glasses hooked up with facial identification, so that you can be at a party and look at somebody, and the facial identification will, you know, come off of Facebook and tell you who it is and where they work and whether they're married. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oh man, brave new world.
I guess. You know, when I was there, you had to use their money. Okay, there are some places that would take American money. They are called hard currency shops, and that's usually where you could find the better stuff. They would take dollars, Deutschmarks, pound sterling. All right, and everything was, you know, triple marked in these little kiosks. You know, with how much each of the currencies you'd have to spend to buy the products. And I went down with my future wife Marina at Christmas time. I was going to buy some presents for her and her mom and her dad. And I went through and I bought these bags of stuff, you know, and I go up to pay for it in dollars. And the lady says, "Wait a minute, I'll be back in just a minute." They took the money. And I'd been there and done this before, but I had a brain freeze. And they wouldn't take my $20 bills because they were used, they were wrinkled, and they weren't crisp and fresh. And I said, "You got to be kidding me!" Though I'm not sure those are the words I used. I said, "This is crazy. You want American money? You won't take it." You know, and somebody had written the number on there. People playing numbers. So they'd written a number. They wouldn't take it, and I didn't have enough of the other to buy anything. So we're taking all the stuff out, putting it back. You know, and I'm trying to explain to a lady in my most colorful English language how I thought this was wrong and stupid and everything else. And we got home. And
where are you going to get crisp bills in a foreign country?
Well, you know, I took all my American cash with me when I went, and I didn't think to make sure all of them were perfect. And we got home, and one of the things I really wanted was a bottle of ketchup. And I'd forgotten to give the lady back her ketchup when I had to take all the stuff out of the bag. So I've had to confess my sins several times that I stole a bottle of ketchup while I was in Russia.
You didn't do it deliberately,
No,
but on the other hand, you didn't bring it back either.
I didn't take it back. That would take a half hour, and I didn't want to take the trolley bus back there. But there was a number of times that when I went to convert my money, they wouldn't take them because they were not new and used. At the time I was there were statistics that we were given in our workshops before going over that in the Soviet Union, there were more $100 bills U.S. $100 bills in circulation there than in the U.S. because that's what they wanted and that's what they were using, American $100 bill, because that had some value. When I was there, the rate of inflation was 500 or 600%. We never knew what the cost of a trolley bus was going to be, whether it was going to be 5 or 100 when you got on it because of inflation. Can you imagine that? To go down to the bank to pay your mortgage today and say, gee, Bob, instead of $1,000 you normally pay, you're going to have to pay $6,000 this month because inflation.
Yeah.
You know, and that was part of the the big issues during the conversion from pure communism to some semblance of capitalism that was going on. So we had some adventures.
And they couldn't have done it without you.
Not as well, anyhow. Not as well.
Wow. So how long were we there? One year?
That was 94, 95. I was there for a year.
Yeah.
When I was teaching there. And I knew I was going to be able to survive that year because I took 365 packets of Nestle's hot chocolate with me. Okay. So every morning.
Well, I do 2 a day, so I would have been out of luck.
Every day I would have hot chocolate with my breakfast, and I took 65 packets of microwave popcorn. Go ahead and ask me the question.
No, I've lost it. Whatever it was.
They didn't have microwaves.
Oh,
there.
do you ever hear from the kids, that your students?
Yeah, a couple have come over here as exchange students, and we've heard from them. And we went over in 2006. We saw 2 of them, but that was that they've all kind of scattered to the winds. But they didn't have microwaves. But in a microwave popcorn bag, you've got the butter and oil already on it, so I take it off and cook it. So once a week, I treat myself to popcorn.
Oh, but you'd have to cook it the old-fashioned way.
Cook it the old-fashioned way. That's right. That's right. In a pot on top of the stove.
Did you shake it?
Oh yeah. I don't want to burn it.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford to burn it because I couldn't afford to go through 2 bags of it in 1 week.
That's right. One of the things the foreign exchange students were mystified about was American popcorn, and that we ate it with salt. And they would talk to each other, and they said, these crazy people, they eat popcorn with salt. Over there, they eat it with sugar or
like kettle corn.
Yeah.
The first time we went, we were traveling down in the Krasnodar region, which is what includes Sochi, where the Olympics are, and we're going by this huge field of corn. It was like 6 miles long. And I told the lady, that's what I miss most is sweet corn in the summer. And I said, take it home, you cook it, and you boil it for 5 or 6 minutes, and you eat it. She says, what? So you take it home, you boil it for 5 or 6 minutes, and eat it. Put butter and salt on it. She says, no. She says, you got to boil it for half an hour. They didn't have sweet corn; they had silage corn.
Oh my God!
So it wasn't cow corn. Yeah, they were not used to at that time what we were, and it was different. The same thing but different.
Hey, I think we've reached the end of the program here, more or less.
I think so.
Our producer isn't here, so we're on our own. Anyway, this has been the Show with No Name. We'll be doing the podcast, I believe, on Friday, God willing. And I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch and Jim DeKosha, and we'll be back next Tuesday right here on WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York, with more of the Show with No Name.